March 24, 91, on Vancouver Island, a playground by the trees, and a little boy was gone. 4 years old and laughing under that gentle sun. Then innocence got stolen before the day was done. A small town lost its quiet, the whole nation held its breath, caught between a prayer and a living kind of death.
Well, as we look back at the historic decades-old case of Michael Dunahy, later in the program, we're going to take a look at this missing child case that's been dragging on since 1991. It is the day that Vancouver Island and Victoria lost their innocence. We'll get into that a bit later in the show, ladies and gentlemen, but let's first jump into our headlines here on Jess TV and Jess FM. I'm James Cousineau, bringing to you Primetime Live, and thank you for tuning in yet once again. As I stated, after our news roundup, we will get into a deep dive on the Michael Dunahy case, one that I recall very vividly as I was in my late teens when this case came to light. I lived on the Lower Mainland, but believe me, the whole of Vancouver Island, the whole of the province of British Columbia, and the nation stood still as people were hoping for good. He was 4 years old when he disappeared, and the mystery continues to this day. Now, let's get back to our headlines tonight as we explore what's going on here in Lethbridge, as well as around the country and around the world. We are coming to you as a pre-recorded show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate your understanding that the phone lines will not be open for your calls, as this show is being pre-recorded here on Canada Day. I will be out of town working on a streaming project tomorrow for one of the major streaming platforms. So because I will be on set filming, I won't be available to do our regular live show. So my appreciation for you tuning in to this episode, even though it's not live tonight. Now, as I said, we will be looking at the stories from across Canada and around the world as rising water and record heat. It is testing communities from coast to coast as Canada marks Canada Day like no other. A trade deal decades in the making comes to an end, and a World Cup underdog is making history. I don't know if you've been following the World Cup, but it is definitely an exciting one for those who are fans and those who are even just picking up watching the game and joining in the excitement across Canada, the US, and Mexico as the games continue. Now, good evening, and again, thanks for joining us. I am James Cousineau. This is Primetime Live, and we have a full hour of news and the deep dive for you tonight, starting close to home here in Lethbridge, then across Canada and the rest of Canada and around the world. Then in the back half of the program, as I said, we're taking an in-depth look at one of the most enduring mysteries in Canadian history, the disappearance of 4-year-old Michael Dunahy from a Victoria playground in 1991, and why, after more than 11,000 tips, his family is still waiting for an answer. But first, tonight's headlines, ladies and gentlemen, and also a quick shout out to our episode sponsor, who again is, of course, Carry Movers Limited, and we are very proud to have them on board to be a presenting sponsor of this episode and many others here on Jess FM and Jess TV. Carry Movers is helping families and businesses across the region move forward one box at a time. For a free quote on your next move, visit them online at www.karymovers.com. That's karymovers.com, and we thank them for making tonight's broadcast possible once again. Now, let's take a look here in Lethbridge and southern Alberta. Yes, we're beginning tonight at home in Lethbridge and then across southern Alberta. We are starting with the Oldman River Flood Watch. The city of Lethbridge is once again urging the residents to stay well back from the Oldman River after fresh heavy rainfall that sent water levels climbing quickly for the second time in recent weeks. The latest flow readings from the city put the river at roughly 900 cubic meters per second, a pace officials call dangerous for anyone near the banks of the river, on pathways, or in the river valley. Crews are monitoring the situation hour by hour, and the city says it will update residents as conditions change. Now we have a story about air service cuts, and Southern Albertans are also digesting the end of an era at the region's airports. WestJet has flown its final scheduled flight into Lethbridge and into Medicine Hat, closing out passenger service the airline first announced back in February. So far, no replacement carrier has stepped forward to fill the gap, leaving travelers in both cities looking at longer drives to Calgary or Edmonton for their next flights. And now, of course, we have to take a look at the overdose prevention site closures, a significant and for many residents emotional local story, not a long story. Lethbridge's overdose prevention site has officially closed its doors. The shutdown follows a request the city sent to the provincial government back in January, and it comes amid an ongoing community-wide debate over the best path forward on harm reduction and public safety in the downtown core. We'll continue to follow the response from health officials and advocates in the days ahead, but if you should be looking for more information, you can look at previous episodes of our program where we explored a lot of information about how Alberta is leading not just the country, but also leadership role around the world when it comes to the mitigation of risk through overdose prevention and for the addiction recovery programs as a holistic approach. So again, you can look at our previous episodes for that report. And then, even though we're talking about floods along the Oldman River, we also need to keep in mind that there is an extreme fire danger. With gusty winds and barely a drop of rain in over a week in some regions, fire danger across southern Alberta has been upgraded to extreme. Officials say ground fuels are critically dry, raising the risk of fast-moving, hard-to-control blazes. Residents are asked to hold off on any open burning until conditions approve. And again, we've done a lot of reporting on the wildfires throughout Western Canada, and we have covered them on the front line. So we definitely want to see you using your fire smarts out there. Do not just walk by if you see a fire on the horizon or up on the mountainsides. By all means, call it in. Don't assume that somebody else has. And on a lighter note, the Bulls keep on winning. Yes, it's some good news out of Spitz Stadium, and the Lethbridge Bulls have extended their winning streak to 6 games, edging West Division leading Okotoks by a single run. The Bulls play a Canada Day game, and it's actually a doubleheader against Fort McMurray, looking to keep the streak alive. So that game was happening today, and I don't have the final results for you as of the recording of this program. And that's our look at home. Next, we're going to take a look at the national picture as Canada marks Canada Day under extraordinary circumstances. Canadians from coast to coast spent today making the country's 159th birthday. But for many, it was a Canada Day, unlike others that they've marked in the past. Canada Day under heat and storms, of course, a brutal heat wave is gripping much of central Canada today, with the humidex values climbing into the 40s in parts of southern Ontario and Quebec. Several cities swapped daytime barbecues for evening fireworks. One Ontario event was converted into an emergency cooling center, and in Ottawa, numerous Canada Day events were suspended this afternoon after thunderstorm warnings moved into the city's traditional busy July 1st weekend. So as we look at that, ladies and gentlemen, public health officials have been issuing extra precaution warnings as the heat collided with the other situations and events going on throughout that region and across our great nation. Happy Canada Day, everyone. Meanwhile, if you're looking to see how other people were marking it, of course, Prime Minister Mark Carney was marking the day as well. The Prime Minister used his Canada Day remarks to call for national unity, acknowledging the country is navigating what he described as a more dangerous and divided world while pointing to moments of Canadians coming together. From wildfire response to flood recovery as reasons for optimism. We know that Canadians come together in times of need, but we need to extend that to times of peace and calmness as well, to come further together as a nation and not let outside forces and online bots divide us. And then, of course, we are looking at Cousineau, a trade deal that is not renewed. In a major economic development, the United States has confirmed it will not extend the Cousineau trade agreement with Canada and Mexico, leaving the future of the decades-old North American trade relationship in question. Economists and industry groups on both sides of the border are now assessing what comes next for cross-border trade. Again, the result of an idiot in the White House, but we won't go there because, hey, I guess we want to celebrate the positive here on Canada Day. And then, of course, we have to take a look at the idiots in the MAGA and such, but let's turn to the ones in Alberta. Yes, Alberta's referendum question looms. In Alberta, the backdrop to this Canada Day is a province-wide referendum on the province's future in Confederation. Both Federalist and Separatist voices are using the holiday to make their case to Albertans about what staying in or leaving Canada would mean. Let's not forget, though, that there is a lot of outside influence and foreign interference when it comes to disinformation, misinformation, and the spread of lies throughout social media and online. So be aware of what information that you're obtaining, what you're retaining, and of course, verify the information that you are believing. And then we have to turn and look at wildfire evacuations in Canada's far north. In the Northwest Territories, families from Fort Simpson are under evacuation order tonight because of advancing wildfires, with many driving through the night to reach a safe evacuation point. Now, let's turn our attention beyond our borders to the stories making headlines around the world today. Overseas tonight, several developing stories are commanding attention. There's the building collapse in Lahore, Pakistan. Yes, in Pakistan, investigators in Lahore are examining whether negligent construction work caused the collapse of a building that's housing a children's tutoring center earlier this week. Rescue teams worked through the rubble as grieving families gathered at the scene. Officials say the investigation into how the structure failed is ongoing. Venezuela earthquake recovery is still ongoing. Recovery efforts are continuing in Venezuela following back-to-back earthquakes that killed more than 1,400 people. New satellite analysis shows tens of thousands of buildings damaged, and international aid teams, including the Canadian Search and Rescue Specialists, remain on the ground as the slow pace of the government response draws criticism from relief organizations. If you're looking to make a difference in the lives of those impacted by these disasters around the world, don't forget that you can always log on to propixcanada.com. That's PROPICS Canada.com, and contribute to the PPCM Fund for Good. Now, tensions remain high along the Pakistan-Afghanistan border, and those tensions are high after Pakistani airstrikes targeting what officials called militant hideouts, killing civilians, including children, ladies and gentlemen, and that was in a border village. Afghan officials have condemned the strikes as an act of aggression, while Islamabad says the action was a response to a wave of militant attacks inside of Pakistan's borders. And then we also have to look at the U.S. Supreme Court rulings this week. There were several, but in Washington, the U.S. Supreme Court has issued a series of major rulings this week, including a decision upholding the citizenship guarantee in the 14th Amendment for children born on U.S. soil. It is a defeat. Oh, look at that. We got something funny going on the screen behind us, but that's okay. It cleared itself up. Now, Children born on the U.S. soil, of course, are afforded the protections of that citizenship guarantee, a default for a policy the president had tried to implement by execution order. I wish executive order. So he wanted to go and eliminate that so people born in the US would not automatically obtain US citizenship. And that, again, the Supreme Court has issued a series of major rulings, including striking Trump's changes down. And then we have World Cup history for Mexico. And that is on a celebratory note for Mexico because they've broken a 40-year curse at the FIFA World Cup, advancing out of the round of 32 for the first time since 1986 with a win over Ecuador. This is sending fans across the country and in Mexican communities here in Canada into the streets to celebrate. Congratulations to those in Mexico. And we'll be watching how the rest of the series plays out for you. All of the best and Viva Mexico. Now, that's tonight's World and National Roundup. When we come back, our in-depth feature, The Disappearance of Michael Dunahy, and the 35-year search for answers. Stay with us, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Primetime Live's in-depth feature is brought to you by Carry Movers Limited. Whether you're moving across town or across the province, the team at Carry Movers is ready to help. You can find Carry Movers online at www.karymovers.com. That's carrymovers.com for local, residential, and commercial office and piano moving throughout the Lower Mainland and Fraser Valley of British Columbia, and for long-distance relocations all throughout Western Canada. Now, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. For the next little bit, we're going to be setting the daily headlines aside for an in-depth look at one of the coldest and most haunting missing persons cases in Canadian history. We're going to start with a little song and video here, and it is celebrating the spirit of Michael Dunahy while also really trying to spread some hope that this case can be resolved. This case has been ongoing since 1991, and I strongly urge you to watch this video and look at the photos, see if it rings a bell of any tips that you may have that could help to bring a decades-old cold case and investigation into a realm of the solved files. We would love to see that. We would love to see Michael, even decades later, returned to his loving parents who have not given up hope, and the Vancouver Island community who has been there to support this search and keep Michael's story alive. So let's take a look at this video. We'll also take a look at some other short videos throughout our deep dive here and get into the story so that you know more about the disappearance of Michael Dunahy, a 4-year-old child from Victoria, British Columbia in 1991. So let's take a look at this video here, ladies and gentlemen. We gave you a little clip at the beginning of the show, but let's watch the actual music video from the West Coast Outlaws producing this music. And the video is thank you to CTV News, CBC News, the Times Colonist in Victoria, and all other sources that we obtained videos and images from online about this case. So thank you to all of those for allowing us the privilege of utilizing your media in this video.
March 24th, 91, on Vancouver Island, a playground by the trees, and a little boy was gone. 4 years old and laughing under that gentle sun, then innocence got stolen before the day was done. A small town lost its quiet, the whole nation held its breath, caught between a prayer and a living kind of death. But the name still gets spoken by the ones who won't let go. Every mile, every memory keeps that ember low. We keep the candle burning through the years that roll on by. Still looking for Michael, still looking for Michael, hoping he'll come home alive. In the morning, in the night, we won't stop till we find the light. The posters may have faded in the rain and salt and time, but a mother and a father still carry that hurt inside. They walk those streets with heavy hearts and boots that know the road, refusing to make peace with a story left untold. Yellow ribbons on the fences, hands joined in the cold, a broken hopeful circle holding on to hope. And every prayer they whisper still goes up the same. Truth can take its time, but love still says his name. We keep the candle burning, we keep the candle burning through the years that roll on by. Still looking for Michael, still looking for Michael, hoping he'll come home alive. In the morning, in the night, we won't stop till we find the light. Some folks say the trail's gone cold and the years have closed that door, but a family's love gets stronger when it's tested to the core. Beneath the western sky, we're still reaching for the truth, holding every last prayer like a thread tied back to you. We keep the candle burning, we keep the candle burning through the years that roll on by. Still looking for Michael, still looking for Michael, hoping he'll come home alive. In the morning, in the night, we won't stop till we find the light. Still looking for you, Michael. Vancouver Island hasn't forgotten. We won't let you go. We won't let you go.
Yeah, so that was a video put together just to try and refresh people's minds, to keep them thinking about Michael as he disappeared in 1991. And on March 24th, 1991, to be exact, 4-year-old Michael Dunahy was playing on a school playground in Victoria, British Columbia. He was only a few short meters from his parents. Within minutes, he was gone, and he has never been found. Tonight, what happened that day, why a case with more than 11,000 tips remains unsolved, and why 35 years later, Michael's family says they still believe someone out there holds the answer. And we here at Jess FM, Jess TV, ProPix TV, and True Crime and Justice TV all agree that this is something that somebody has, even if it's the smallest thread of information, that when that information is brought forward to the Victoria Police Department, and it may interweave some of the other clues and tips that have come in over the decades and bring some type of resolution to this case, and hopefully a positive one in the fact that Michael can return home. And that, of course, is the ultimate dream of this case and ultimate outcome. And it was time now that we want to take a look at the day he vanished and move on through this timeline. And we'll take a look at some of the news stories and the press dealings that the families had as well with Bruce and Crystal Dunahy. It started out as a Sunday. Michael's parents, as I said, Bruce and Crystal Dunahy, had brought him along to Blanchard Elementary School, where Crystal was taking part in a woman's flag football practice on the school's playing fields, and Bruce stood nearby watching. Michael, of course, well known to the community and to his family as an outgoing, active little boy, was allowed to play on the school's playground, and that was a public space in daylight, just a few meters from where his parents stood. In the span of just a few minutes, while his mother gathered equipment and his father watched the practice, Michael just disappeared. It's been an ongoing nightmare for the family and community ever since. What makes this case so unsettling, even decades later, is what investigators did not find. Despite the playground being in public, occupied by families and spectators gathered nearby for the football game, no witness has ever come forward who saw what happened to Michael. Police at the time noted a report of a man in his late 40s or 50s near the playground with a brown van, but that lead, like so many others, went nowhere and had never been conclusive. Now, within hours, of course, Victoria Police classified the case as an abduction rather than simply just a missing child report. And the response that followed became, at the time, one of the largest police investigations in Canadian history. Roadblocks went up across southern Vancouver Island. Ferries and airlines were put on alert. Hundreds of volunteers and officers combed through garbage bins, crawl spaces, refrigerators, and freezers across the region. It was, by any measure, an all-hands on deck search, and yet it yielded no results. It turned up absolutely nothing. This was a case before its time, because investigators who worked the file have long pointed to one uncomfortable truth. In 1991, the tools that might solve a case like this today simply did not exist. There were no widespread video surveillance cameras to canvass. DNA identification techniques were still in their infancy, and with tips arriving by the hundreds every hour from across North America, officers were forced to log and cross-reference them by hand on carbon paper without the database systems that investigators worldwide rely on today. Retired police officer and other officials have said publicly in the years since that they believe modern forensics and surveillance technology might very well have changed the outcome of this case had it existed at the time. It is a haunting thought for a department that has never stopped working the file. The file is still open today. It is not a closed file. Over the decades, a handful of leads have briefly reignited public hope, and each time ended with disappointment. In 2006, police investigated reports of a young man in BC's interior who physically resembled what Michael might look like. DNA testing ruled him out. In 2009, police in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, found one of Michael's original missing posters in the home of a man who later told his psychiatrist he had killed a child decades earlier and claimed knowledge of another child's killing. That man was found dead of an apparent natural causes before the connection to Michael's case could be fully resolved. In 2011, as the 20th anniversary approached, a report of a similar-looking man in Chase, British Columbia, was also ruled out through DNA testing. And then there's the story of the family that never stopped searching. For Michael's parents, Bruce and Crystal Dunahy, the case has never closed, not for a single day. In the years after Michael's disappearance, Crystal became a leading advocate for missing children's issues in British Columbia, eventually serving as president of Child Find BC, which is an organization that supports families of missing children across the province. Every March, on the anniversary of Michael's disappearance, the Dunahy family and hundreds of supporters take part in the Keep the Hope Alive walk and run in Esquimalt, British Columbia on Vancouver Island that raises money for Child Find BC and keeping Michael's name and case in the public eye. It's become one of Greater Victoria's most enduring community traditions, a 5-kilometer reminder that for one family, the search has never actually ended. And if you're interested to know more about that run and that event, you can take a look online. There is a Facebook page that is dedicated to Michael Dunahy. There's actually several. But in this particular instance, of course, that has to do directly with the case and this event that takes place every year. So again, you can find them on Facebook. Just search Michael Dunahy. Now, before we continue on, I wanted to show a video that was put out by the Victoria Police Department. And this goes back actually to the 20th anniversary. So it shows that even every decade that goes by, every day, every month, every year, the Victoria Police Department is not giving up hope. They just refuse, and they want answers for the community, but mostly for the family.
Our hope is that one day we will have Michael.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending. I first want to begin by introducing Bruce and Crystal Dunahy, parents of Michael Dunahy, Deputy Chief John Ducker, who's in charge of operations, and Inspector Bob Gale, who's the officer in charge of investigative services. I'll make a brief statement, and then Crystal will also make a statement, followed by Deputy Chief Ducker. Then I will conclude the comments and take some questions. If you do have some questions for Crystal, we ask that you save those for the one-on-one interviews. Okay, so tomorrow is the 20th anniversary of the disappearance of Michael Dunahy. On March 24th, 1991, Michael went missing from the playground at Blanchard Elementary School, the site of which is now Canada West University. He was 4 years old at the time. Michael was last seen around 12:30 in the area of the school playground. The map here depicts the aerial view of the school at the time. The Dunahy family, Crystal, Bruce, and Caitlin, were near the set of rocks at the south side of the playing field. Crystal was putting on her cleats in preparation for a football game. Bruce was trying to check on the score of a game in progress, and he climbed the rocks to check on Michael, but could not see him, and immediately walked over to the playground. Not finding Michael, Bruce ran around the portables, went around the school, and a few minutes later, he returned back near the rocks, and he told Crystal he could not find Michael. The football game stopped, and a search of the school grounds and the area was conducted by all the participants. About 1 o'clock, 4 Victoria police units were dispatched, and our officers conducted an extensive search. By 3 o'clock, a command post was set up at the community center on King Street. News of Michael's disappearance spread throughout the capital region, and the city of Victoria collectively held its breath in hopes of finding Michael. His disappearance rocked the community, and they are still left without answers. His disappearance spawned one of the largest police investigations in Canadian history. Today, Michael's parents, Bruce and Crystal, are here, and Crystal will speak about the disappearance of their son. Crystal has become an advocate for missing children's issues in BC. She currently serves as the president of Child Find BC. I'd like to welcome Crystal Dunahy.
Hi. As Grant already described the circumstances of that day, they're still embedded in our minds and our hearts, still without answers. 20 years later, our lives have gone on, but we've not forgotten. We know someone is out there who knows what happened. Now is the time to come forward and pass on that information to help us find some closure so that we can move forward knowing that we have all the answers in place. Now we're just, it feels like we're stuck in a time capsule to realize that this is 20 years has gone by and we don't have the answers. that we want. So our families plead basically to come forward and tell us what you know. We've gone worldwide. The internet is the new tool of getting information out there. Someone knows who took Michael and where he is today. And those are the answers that we want. And we'd like to have that. Thank you.
Thanks, Crystal, for sharing your story. Tomorrow, the family is holding a church service at the Queen of Peace Parish. It's located at 851 Old Esquimalt Road. The service begins at 12 o'clock and all are welcome to attend. Every year, the family also hosts the Michael Dunahy Dance and Fun Run to raise funds for Child Find BC. And this year's event is held at the Archie Browning Sports Center, with the dance taking place Friday, April 9th, and the run Sunday, April 10th. I'd now like to introduce Deputy Chief John Ducker, who's in charge of operations for Victoria Police Department.
Thanks, Grant. Morning, everybody. I want to begin by thanking Crystal and Bruce for being here today. I can only imagine how difficult this is for them. Tomorrow marks the 20-year anniversary of Michael's disappearance, and I am here today to reaffirm the department's commitment to this active investigation and our mission to bring Michael home. On the day Michael went missing in 1991, nearly 100 police officers from across the region and the Lower Mainland joined together to investigate Michael's disappearance. As a junior investigator, I myself was one of those officers. Those dedicated officers spent the following weeks investigating every lead and every piece of information, all in the hope of reuniting the Dunahy family. In the months that followed, the investigators remained dedicated to this file, and since Michael's disappearance, it has remained under an active investigation and is now currently under the direction of Detective Inspector Bob Gell. Michael's disappearance is a case that has haunted our investigators for 20 years. As the only remaining member of the department who originally worked on this difficult file, I'm still burdened by it. But none of us can even dream of the pain and the hardship endured by the Dunahy family. And as a community, many of us are still deeply affected by what occurred on that fateful day. There are many examples of cases older than this being solved. Sometimes all it takes is that one tip, one piece of information that provides the break in the case that we are all looking for.
So again, you can watch that further if you want to watch the entire press release. That archive video is available on the Michael Dunahy website that you can find at michaeldunahy.ca. And I encourage you to go there. There's a lot of videos, some maps, a lot of information that maybe if you were to go and visit that site, maybe you've heard something, maybe you've seen something, maybe there's something in your mind that you recall from back in 1991 that you didn't think was relevant at the time, but now you realize that maybe it could be just that small sliver of information that brings other tips and information together for the family and to bring some type of closure, and hopefully a positive one. But in any event, any type of closure is important for this family. And that includes Michael's younger sister, Caitlin, who was just 6 months old when her brother disappeared. She grew up never knowing him, only knowing of him. Through family photographs, through the case that shaped her childhood, and through a community that has never let Michael's name fade. In 2021, the 30th anniversary of Michael's disappearance, Victoria Police released something the family had never had before, and that was an age-enhanced forensic sketch. And that was created by an RCMP forensic artist that was working directly with Bruce and Crystal, showing what Michael might look like as a man in his 30s. And you can see that in the video that we played just a few minutes ago, the music video there. And that was really being combined at the same time as police launched a dedicated online tips portal, hoping that new technology might actually succeed where decades of dead-end leads had not succeeded. Now, where does this case stand today? That is a big question, and people want to know. After 35 years, of course, it is still, as the Victoria Police have mentioned, it's still like it was 20 years ago, or 20-year anniversary. It is still an active file. It is open, it is active, and it is reviewed periodically by the department's historical case review section. And they are using forensic and investigative techniques that simply did not exist in 1991. Investigators have said publicly year after year that they believe someone out there holds a key piece of information that could finally solve this case, and that it may only take that one person coming forward with that one right detail that could bring Michael home. If you're watching tonight and you were in the Victoria area in March of 1991, or you've heard something over the years that never seemed to add up, investigators want to hear from you. You can remain anonymous. The tip line number is in that video as well. And we'll also be posting it with tonight's episode online. It's a case that reshaped how Canadian police departments approach child abduction investigations. It inspired changes to search protocols still used today, and that, for one Victoria family, has never once faded into the background. Every March they walk, every year they hope, and every year they wait for that one tip that finally brings their son home. Michael Dunahy would be 39 years old today. His case remains open. If you know something, if you know anything, please come forward. Contact the Victoria Police Department. Contact the Victoria Crime Stoppers. Contact your local police department if that's what it takes. You can be anonymous. You can send those tips online through the Victoria Crime Stoppers link as well. That's it for our program tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. And before we go, thanks once again to tonight's episode sponsor, Carry Movers Limited, for supporting this broadcast. You can find them online at www.karymovers.com. That's carrymovers.com for all of your residential and commercial moving needs. Primetime Live is a joint production of Jess TV, ProPix TV, and True Crime and Justice TV for this particular episode tonight. And our thanks to the teams at all three networks for bringing you here and into tonight's broadcast. I am James Cousineau on behalf of everyone here at Primetime Live. Good luck, good night, and we'll see you next Thursday at 8 p.m. where we will again be live with the phone lines open for your calls. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. And once again, thank you for tuning in.